Hi, my name is Philip Bloom and welcome to yet another camera review. Well, to be fair, I haven't done one since the Blackmagic Camera. And today I am here in James Miller's lovely country house, away from the freezing cold snow. And this house is actually over 400 years old. I can't actually stand up in it because back then people were really little and I keep banging my head, so I'm just going to sit down for the entirety of this. I'm talking about this camera here, the 1DC from Canon, the most expensive DSLR to come out, well, recently. I'm sure DSLRs were really expensive when they first came out, but this is a very expensive DSLR compared to everything else out there. Why is it so expensive? Well, it has a C on it, which means it's part of their cinema line, much like the camera that's filming me right now, which is the C300. This fits into that line, and what's special about this is it records 4K internally. So really, is it any good, and is it worth the money? That's what I'm going to talk about today. The first time that we saw a glimpse of this camera was a very, very subtle one. It was back in November 2011 when they first launched the C300. And there was a picture of these cameras, and in there was a DSLR with a C on it, which was considered a concept camera. Basically, it's the 1DC, and it's just come out. But when I first heard about the specs, it was like, okay, it shoots 4K. That's, 4K, I kind of have mixed feelings about it because it isn't necessarily needed right now, but it is obviously a step up from Full HD and therefore really quite important. But the fact it's a DSLR that shoots 4K, I wasn't quite sure if there was actually a necessary reason for that. So initially I was a bit hesitant, and then when I heard it was 24p only, I was quite disappointed because 24p only isn't a huge amount of use for me because I work all over the world, and 25p is a much more global format, and having both would have been terrific. And then I heard the actual codec was motion JPEG and how big the files were, and then the price. So there was lots of things going against the camera initially. The first time I saw any footage from the camera was NAB 2012. It was Shane Hulbert's A Ticket, and it looked amazing. Shane's work was fantastic, and seeing it on a 4K projection, really sort of, got my attention. But then nothing really happened for months, didn't hear anything about the camera. And it was only later on in the year that you started seeing some more things come out about it. Then in Australia in December, I met up with a filmmaker called Abraham Joffe, and he had shot a wedding with the camera, but had used the frames from the motion JPEG codec and made an amazing photography book for the couple. And I think it was that moment that I really thought, actually, I do really want to get my hands on this and have a play with it. When I got back to England, Canon UK were kind enough to loan me the camera, even though I was going straight off to Dubai. And once in Dubai, I had a fantastic view from the hotel balcony and shot lots and lots of stuff. Or see the detail in the skyline, see how well it actually came out. And it was amazing. The footage looked just absolutely beautiful. Way more detailed than you're going to get, obviously, in Full HD, and way more detailed than, obviously, Blackmagic, because the Blackmagic is only 2.5K. The 4K just made the skyline just come alive.
I only want to leave a thing that lasts. Time will pass, surely will.
I'm a big fan of the Canon 1DX. It was actually after testing it that I fell in love with the image, and I shot a music video with it, found it an incredibly beautiful, very organic for a DSLR looking image. And I shot a couple of mini documentaries, short documentaries in South Africa. There was the Portrait of a Projectionist and the Safari documentary, Tracker and the Banker. I love the image enormously. We've all heard that 1DX and 1DC almost identical cameras. Well, there are a couple of actual physical differences to the camera. The key thing though is actually the software inside it. But you know how similar it is when you get the manual for the 1DC? It's actually a 1DX manual with an additional section for the 1DC. So they are very, very similar cameras. But as I said, the software is different, and that's what's going to potentially change an image. And I love the 1DX image so much, I want to see if the 1DC image is actually as nice or better. And the only way you're going to find that out, and also see just how good the 4K truly is to take it out and shoot with it. What a really stupid idea, coming outside in January down by the seaside. But it is Brighton, it's one of my favourite places in England, and I've done a few tests down here in the past. The problem is, it was really, really pretty the past few days because we've had so much snow. But then today, just before we got here, it started raining. The snow's all gone, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable, and we have to be under shelter. Why? Well, this camera has no problem with rain as long as you've got a decent lens on it because it is weather sealed. James though, is shooting on a C300, which isn't weather sealed, so for the time being, we have to be underneath. So the camera obviously shoots 4K, but I also want to see just how good the Full HD is in comparison. One of the great things about this camera, as opposed to the 1DX and the other Canon DSLRs, is it has Canon Log, which is a feature of the C line, the C100, the C300 and the C500. And Canon Log gives us lovely flexibility in post, lovely flat image, very, very nice and gradable. And it's not just available in 4K, it is in Full HD. And we also have Full HD, 50p and 60p. And that is a really big deal. Well, when I say it's a big deal, we've wanted it for ages, and it does feature in other cameras. It's the first time we've seen it in a Canon camera. And one other feature of the Full HD is it does have a Super 35 crop mode. So effectively we have 3 different size images on this camera. We have the 4K, which is the 1.3 times crop, like APS-H. We have the Super 35, which is like the 1.6 crop, and we have the full frame. It's just we don't have them at every resolution. There's no full frame at 4K, it's only at 1.3 crop. But the Full HD, we have full frame and the Super 35. Is that clear? Yeah. To access the Canon Log, we go into the menu, Canon Log settings, and we can turn it off and on. When it's off, we just use our normal picture profiles that we have with any Canon DSLR. When it's on, we have the ability to have view assist off and on, which is another feature of the C line. Just gives us the ability to actually see an image that looks more attractive to shoot with rather than shooting with the log. 'Cause it is tricky shooting with log because it looks so flat and dull. I do tend to shoot with the view assist on, but just remember that your exposure is different in your screen to what you're actually recording. The same with the histogram. Histogram is measuring the view assist, not the actual log. When Canon brought out the 1DX, they obviously knew just how crappy that mini HDMI connector is, so they shipped it with this, and we have it on the 1DC. It's the Hdmi Protector. You put the cable in there and you wrap it around there. It does save the wear and tear on your cable. We have other features of the camera that aren't on the 1DX. Basically, a headphone jack, but for some reason was not on the 1DX yet, is on the 5D Mark III. A bizarre omission on the 1DX, which is now back on the 1DC. The screen on the back is as nice as the 1DX. It's nicer than the 5D3, but very disappointingly, as I get dripped on, is there's still no help when it comes to focusing. Yes, we do have the digital punch in before we hit record. We can't punch in after we've hit record, and we still have no peaking. We do though have a clean HDMI out, and the screen stays on, which is a big, big help. So you can use an EVF or a monitor to help you with the camera. But it'd be nice just on the back screen, something really simple like peaking. We have it on DSLRs from Sony, and we have it on compacts from Sony. It'd be lovely to have it on an expensive camera like this. It's a shame the rolling shutter issues are really quite obvious still in here. Like all the DSLRs, it would be nicer if it was closer to, say, the C300 or the C100, as it is a C camera after all. But as you can see from the shot, we still have rolling shutter issues as that lamp post becomes rather bendy. So I'm now just knocking off a shot in the 4K and in Full HD, both in Super 35 and the full frame, just to see what they look like really. Okay, we have all these different options. So start off in 4K. Let's check my focus. infinity. And give that a good 15 seconds. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to go into Super 35 mode next. Why next? Because it's the one next in the menu. Simple reason. And let's roll on that. So it should be slightly tighter than the last shot. Okay, and now we're going to go into full frame. And it should be wider. Yes, it is. And last but not least, new to Canon cameras, finally, is 50p and 60p. I've only got 50p at the moment because I'm set to PAL mode. If I go into NTSC mode, it will open up 60 frames, but this is fine for now. Full HD, 50p. One of the key features, which is actually a part of the reason why the camera is more expensive, is we don't have that record time limit of 29 minutes 59 seconds. That was always to do with the EU tax rule, and it was all about duty bringing the camera in. Even if you bought the camera outside the European Union, you got screwed by it. So we actually shows you now that we have 58 minutes and 58 seconds of record time in all-eye mode right now. Mind you, that whole recording time issue and being able to record long continuous clips is only really useful for full HD, because in 4K it takes up so much space on the card, we're not even going to have a chance to get anywhere near that. Right now, if I go into 4K, I have 10 minutes left on this card. And if I go into full HD, in all-eye mode, which is the highest codec, I have 58 minutes and 58 seconds. So it's a huge difference in the amount of data that is used up in the 4K. And if we go into IPB mode, which is the lower codec in full HD, we have just under 3 hours. You can just see the difference in the actual codec and how much space is used up. So it's a very, very, very hungry camera in that 4K mode. And hey, let's just look at the lower codec just for a laugh. Let's see what we can do in sound definition. 8 hours and 36 minutes. There we go. So if you really are a bit of a Scrooge on your cards, you shouldn't shoot anything over SD. Stick with that and you'll be fine. For the rest of us, especially if you're going to buy this camera, 4K, this camera is really, really hungry when it comes to data. The learning curve for this camera shooting is, to be honest with you, zero. It's just like my old 1DX, very similar to the Mark III. It just has a couple more options in the menu. Other than that, it's a DSLR. It's a Canon DSLR. It operates just like a Canon DSLR. It just has a C on the front. Of course, it would be incredibly rude of me if I didn't actually do some slow motion tests. So let's stick it into 50p for HD. Need some people in shot for walking, and here we go. Let's get them in focus and record. It's cold, really cold. That's my own fault, I'm not wearing a hat and gloves. So as a little bit of a resolution test, I am filming across the road in the rain, whilst I'm in the dry, I think it's like a barbecue trash bin. That's an American thing. A barbecue rubbish bin. I'm shooting this in 4K. I'm at 5.6 on this 7200mm lens, so it should be pretty damn sharp. 320 ISO. Let's see how much detail we can actually read as we crop in on that bag on the top there and actually on the rubbish bin itself. And why not? Let's do that in full HD, Super 35 and full frame as well, and see if we can still see the writing in the same amount of detail. In the HDMI output section, we have the ability to mirror and no mirror. Mirroring means we get a nice clean output, and no mirroring means the screen turns off. I'm not the only person testing cameras down here. Guy Thatcher from hireacamera.com is out testing compacts and doing stills, so I borrowed him to do a nice little portrait on the lovely 85 1.2. See how lovely Guy looks in 4K. No, please. No, go forward, it's fine. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's raining, isn't it? Lovely. An interesting quirk, apart from the Brighton people, is don't forget it's a stills camera. It takes great photographs. I mean, it's probably the best stills camera I've ever used. But when I am in either 4K or log mode, whether in full HD or not, you cannot take a photograph in live view mode. So it's a little bit frustrating because it is a camera that does both. When I take a photograph, I've got to go the old-fashioned way, wait for the lorry to go past, and that's the only way to take a photograph. When we try and do it in live view, this is what we get. But I'm really curious to see just how good that motion JPEG looks from the 4K in comparison to a normal JPEG. So I'm now bored senseless of filming in this same place. I have to go out there. I was hoping it was going to stop raining. It hasn't. I've got like 20 minutes left of light. I've got 5 minutes and 45 seconds left on this card. I left the other cards in the car, which is kind of dumb. So I'm going to go out, get wet. James is going to stay in the dry. Aren't you, James? You're not going to come out. Well, to be honest with you, I don't want him to because I don't want to get my camera wet. See you in a bit. This may be waterproof, but I'm not, and now it's not just rain, it's like sleety, icy, horrible rain. You're nice and dry over there. So I'm going to do another detailed test of the writing on Brighton Pier. And this is really horrible. There's nobody here. Nobody's stupid enough to come out. Quite possibly the most miserable test experience I've had. The camera's fine, I'm not. Frozen. The problem is I'm not dressed properly for it, but that is horrible. Only idiots go out in this sort of weather.
I was going to do some low light testing down here. I think I'll scrap that, and I think we'll go back to James's and we'll do it. Cup of tea, gin and tonic, and we'll do some low light tests indoors. What do you reckon, James? Oh, man. Oh well, I think it's, well, let's see if it still works when we get back. Let's see how good the weather sealing is.
So it's taken me about 3 hours to thaw out from that freezing cold in Brighton, but at least had a chance to look at the footage on the computer. And it's been really actually fascinating to look at it. The 4K looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, really, really beautiful. The detail that I'm seeing in the distance, in fine lines and fine objects and little bits and pieces, it's all there. Taking JPEGs and comparing it to the footage, it's just exactly the same, and it should be because it's a motion JPEG. So when it comes to the full HD, that's where it becomes really interesting. The 4K is beautiful. Full HD, what's it actually like? Well, the full frame looked really, really similar to the 1DX, but I didn't have a 1DX with me, so I wasn't able to actually do a side-by-side. But I know the 1DX image very well, and looking at it, it just seemed really very similar, with an advantage of having that Canon Log, which makes it easier to grade, a better dynamic range, definitely better. But the most eye-opening thing that I saw was the Super 35mm crop. Really, really impressive looking image, really sharp, really detailed. It looked better than the full frame. Of course, it is a much tighter shot because it is cropped, but the image definitely looked a lot better. Putting a bit of sharpening on the full frame did bring it to life and made it a lot better, but still not as good as the Super 35mm. Really disappointing though was the 50p. I think it looks like it's upscaled. I can't say for sure, but looking at it, it's nowhere near as sharp as either the other full frame of the full HD, the 24p, 25p, 30p, or the Super 35mm crop. It's definitely softer. It looks like it's been upscaled. In fact, it looks a lot like the 720p from the C300 upscaled, which is definitely softer. So I can't confirm that is the case or not. All I can talk about is what I see on the computer, and to me, it definitely looks upscaled. And that's really disappointing because this is the first Canon to actually have full HD, 50p and 60p. And I really was looking forward to it being just as good as the 24p and 25p. And the fact it isn't is a really huge disappointment. The image definitely looks better though than the 1DX. And I think a lot of that is down to the fact that it has the Canon Log, which is a feature of the C line. Couple that with the Super 35mm image looking beautiful, of course, and the 4K, and no time limit on the recording. This is actually the first DSLR that is actually pretty much focused more on video than stills. Let me explain why that is the case. Because the still image from the 1DC is no better than the 1DX. It's the same. So you're paying all that extra money for the video function. So therefore, that makes it video first and still second, which is utterly unique for a DSLR. We've never had that before. Yet we are still missing some key video features. Things like sort of zebras and peaking and the ability to punch in whilst recording. So although it is a video camera first now and a stills camera second, it's still missing, for me, some key things that make my life easier that I have on the C300, which is easily the easiest camera to actually shoot video on. It is just an absolute breeze. One of the key features of the 1DX is its amazing low light sensitivity. When I shot
portrait of a projectionist in Cape Town, I actually rode my exposure through the ISOs, which was crazy. And the fact that when you did see noise come up, it looked actually really quite nice. The 1DC is as sensitive as the 1DX. It looks as good. The key thing is just how well does it hold up in 4K, because when you are going to compress an image down, it is going to hide a lot of artifacts. So it is a lot bigger and therefore will show up more artifacts, and it does. It looked so much better than I expected it to in these high ISOs in 4K. I did expect the Full HD to look great. I didn't expect the 4K to look as good as it did. And the fact that it does is one of the reasons why this camera is so attractive to many. Thanks so much, Harry, for putting up with us whilst we did this high ISO test.
This camera is around £10,000, a bit less, including VAT. Obviously in America it's a lot cheaper. Everything's cheaper in America. And the fact that this small camera, and it is a small camera, let's not forget the size of it, it shoots 4K internally on compact flash cards. Now that in itself is a bit of a problem in that the codec is a motion JPEG, and therefore it's a very high bit rate. It's not a very efficient codec. So we're going to need a lot of cards. I shoot mostly documentaries, and I like to have around 7 to 8 hours worth of cards for a day's shoot, because I never want to offload during the day. I want to do it at the end of the day. And the reason I have so many cards is often interviews go on for a very long time. Now, if you go to Amazon right now and just check out a price for a 128GB card, and you need to have a card with 1,000 times speed, it's actually a 64 gig Lexar, 128 gig one, you're looking at around £500. So to get 6 hours worth of cards, you're looking at £6,000 in compact flash cards, which is an enormous amount of money. That is a huge cost you have to factor in. Now, prices always do drop with memory. We've seen that obviously happen every single time. And there are other brands out there which are much cheaper. There's a brand called Computer Bay, I think it's called Computer Bay, 128 gig card for around £130. So if these are any good, they're going to be really useful, because honestly, £6,000 for a day's worth of memory is a lot of money. But if these cheaper cards are any good and the media prices do plummet on the other brands, it's definitely a proposition. Now, for other stuff like music videos and narrative fiction work, it's a definite camera that you should look at, because it's so simple. It's a DSLR, it's small, it shoots 4K internally. And that's what I have to keep saying. These are the biggest key points for this camera. It's a small camera that shoots 4K internally. That's a big, big deal. The only other cameras I can think of that actually shoot 4K internally, we're talking the red cameras when you have the SSD module on the side. And these are heavy cameras. These are very light hungry cameras, as in they need a lot of light. They're nowhere near as sensitive as the 1DC. That's what I love about the camera. It's a DSLR. It's a DSLR, so it's nice and small, it's nice and light, it shoots on compact flash cards. So that brings us on to the cost again. It's a really difficult thing to actually think about. Is it worth the money? Yes, it's definitely worth the money. Is it overpriced? Yes, it is overpriced, but it's also worth the money. That in itself is a huge contradiction, because there is no actual competition for this camera. There's no other camera of this size, of this weight, of the sensitivity that can shoot 4K for this price. It is therefore worth the money. The reason I say it's overpriced is because if you look at it compared to the 1DX, which is a very, very similar camera, you're paying a big premium to get that 4K, to get that Super 35mm crop, to get that Canon Log, and to have that record time limit removed. So that's why I say it's overpriced. But if you don't have the 1DX and it didn't exist, you look at the 1DC and go, totally worth the money. That's why it sort of screws with your head somewhat. You really have to weigh up the pros and cons of the camera, and there's a hell of a lot of pros, and the cons are really basically pretty much money and the simple fact that 4K currently, as of today, is still only 24p. It really is quite an astonishing camera. They could bring down the price just a little bit. Psychologically, it would do really, really well. This camera shows you what a DSLR is capable of, and if they can just bring some of those features into the lower line. So is it a replacement for something like a C300? No, that's a proper video camera. Although this is, as I say, it's more video camera than stills camera, it still doesn't have key features of a video camera. That's proper audio handling, proper monitoring, like a decent viewfinder, a fantastic screen, peaking, waveforms, all that sort of really lovely stuff that we used to with a video camera. Of course, SDI connections, all that sort of stuff that a video camera has, this doesn't have. This is different. It's still a stills camera that shoots amazing stills. It's also the smallest 4K internal recording video camera out there. And that alone makes it an incredibly attractive proposition. And once you've shot with it and seen that image, you really will fall in love with it. I think I have. Damn it, I have. I'm gonna have to get one now, aren't I?
I think this is a great camera for events, for stock, for potentially documentaries if the card price can come down, for music videos that don't require slow motion, and of course for narrative fiction. It is a very flexible camera. And on top of that, with the Super 35C log, I have a fantastic B camera to go with my C300, which is also much more than a B camera because it does other things the C300 doesn't do. It does them very, very well. It may be a camera of contradictions, but it's still a bloody good one.
Coming. Oh, that's a big focus pull on that lens. Once more. It's getting colder and getting more pissed off. But I've still got 2 minutes left and I'm going to use up these 2 minutes. This is the most miserable camera test I've ever done, ever. I haven't got a towel on me. Alright, that's it. I've had enough of Brighton. I'm not coming back here again until that sun comes out. Whenever that's going to be.